months on, how are you still employed by us?
I don't know.
This morning, new details on former Deputy Sean Grayson's troubling history in law enforcement. 30-year-old Grayson worked at 6 police departments in 4 years.
Away from your hot steaming water.
Away from hot steaming water?
Yeah.
Oh, I was rebuking you in the name of Jesus.
I
rebuke you in the name of
better God, I swear to God, I'll shoot you right in your face.
The Sonya Massey incident just got way more complicated. Turns out the judge revealed that the cops knew about her mental health issues, but still decided to use aggressive force.
Please don't send no combative policemen that are prejudiced, please. They're scary. I'm scared of the police. Sometimes they make the serious bit worse.
Seriously? They knew and still went in guns blazing? That's already messed up, but hold on. It gets even juicier.
I keep hearing stuff on the outside of my house, and it sounds like somebody was banging on the side of my house. I don't know. Could y'all come and see?
And now Sonya's son also just dropped a bombshell. The cop who brutally killed his mom actually knew her, like personally. This changes everything and totally hints at a setup.
And they just said somebody. And then next thing you know, I get up. I wasn't like even thinking. I was like, I got to get to my grandma's house.
And guess what? There might be some truth to it, since Sean's girlfriend and Sonya apparently knew each other. Could there have been some beef between them? And check this out. Sean's whole job situation is sketchy too. The only reason he even had a job is because his girlfriend's dad vouched for him.
Scott Butterfield, a retired Sangamon County Sheriff's deputy and father of Grayson's girlfriend, wrote a glowing reference for the now disgraced deputy before he was hired.
Safe to say, Isabel's got the power in that relationship. If Sonya did something to piss her off, maybe Sean decided to handle it himself. So are folks really on to something here? Did Sean really barge into that home with a sinister plan?
With Scott for 24 years, and it gives me some confidence that he would recommend somebody, but it's not a pass to the front of the line.
Sheriff.
And if so, then did the police set Sonya up? Why would they use such aggressive force when they knew about her mental health? And what's the real story between Sean, Isabel, and Sonya?
Like me, I didn't want to believe it. And then we didn't find out that it was a police officer until a day after, too. That's the thing.
Did Sean owe his girlfriend's family something big, and this was payback? And if the cop knew Sonya, what was their history? Friends, enemies, something more?
The main focus of everybody is that this animal gets justice. He gets exactly what he deserved.
Also, why was the aggressive force deemed necessary? What were the cops trying to achieve by escalating the situation? Were they covering up for Sean, knowing there was a personal connection?
You on your integrity. How does that make you feel?
I'm learning from it.
And why did Isabel's dad go out of his way to get Sean that job? Was there some sort of leverage or favor being exchanged? Did Isabel have her own reasons for wanting Sonya out of the picture?
This is extremely concerning. Everybody likes you. I got to be able to trust you. Was this a purposefully done lie?
And let's not forget, if Sean knew Sonya and there was bad blood, how deep does this vendetta run? Did Sean and Isabel plan this together?
I full 100%, I still believed I was on North Madison until you just pulled up Google Maps and showed me in the daytime.
This is going to get deeper.
Was there a long-term grudge between Sonya and Isabel's family? What did Sonya know or do that made her a target? And what role did Sean's girlfriend play in all of this? Was she just a pawn or was she pulling the strings? Every new piece of information just makes this case more twisted. There's clearly a lot more going on beneath the surface. Is there a conspiracy brewing here? Was this a cold-blooded setup orchestrated by people close to Sonya? We need answers, and fast. Let's find out what's really going on.
So we gonna stay abreast of this, but this is just a theory. This is just a theory. We gonna update y'all as it go, but it seemed fishy to me that she didn't have clothes on and something was going on outside.
The cops already knew what was up. See, when Sonya called 911 about an intruder in her house, it wasn't her first time dialing the authorities. Turns out she'd made a bunch of emergency calls in the days before the incident. In one of those calls, Sonya's mom, Sonya Massey, told the cops her daughter was having a mental breakdown. It was around 9 a.m. and Sonya was out on the streets yelling. Donna explained that when Sonya gets upset, she thinks everyone's out to get her, kind of like a paranoid schizophrenic. And that's not all. Donna knew things could get serious and was super worried about her daughter's safety. That's why she asked the authorities not to send a biased officer. In another call, an unidentified woman said people wanted to hurt her. Then, just a day later, Sonya herself called in to report a neighbor who had hit her with a brick. A sheriff's deputy met her at the hospital since she had gone there to get medical treatment after making the call. She told the officer the same story about the neighbor and mentioned that she broke a window trying to get into a car to escape. Sonya also let the officer know she'd recently been released from a mental health facility and that earlier that day, a cop had tried to run her off the road. This is where Sonya's son comes in. Her family has been determined to get the truth out there, holding press conference after press conference for her. During a recent one, Sonya's son, Massey, had some interesting things to say. According to him, on the day of the incident, there was another 911 call, and 2 officers showed up at their home because of it. He believes that Sean was there as well.
I talked to 2 officers, or whatever, and I believe that it's the same officer that shot my mother. I talked to his
son explained that he believed the second officer was responsible. He mentioned that he had spoken with them and they told him that she was driving herself to the hospital during the incident. She wasn't present at the scene when it occurred, but was heading to the hospital. They had said they were going to assist her, and then the incident happened.
The second officer, that's the one that, I think, the one that did that. I talked to them, and they told me that because she was driving herself to the hospital or something.
And this has the internet buzzing. If Sean showed up at the house before, it means he knew about Sonya's mental health struggles and still chose to be aggressive. So, was Sonya really set up? Well, let's clear one thing up. This isn't the first time this idea has been suggested. During an interview with CBS Mornings, Sonya's dad, James Wilburn, revealed that he didn't even know his daughter had been taken out by a police officer. Authorities told him that an intruder was behind the attack.
Never told that it was a deputy-involved shooting. We were under the impression that she was killed by the intruder.
Massey's father, James Wilburn, told CBS Mornings the family was initially not told that their loved one's shooting death involved law enforcement. We were under the impression that she was killed by the intruder or some other person from the street, and they just went in there and found her dead body, Wilburn said, adding that rumors began to circulate that Massey's killing was self-inflicted. Although difficult to watch, Wilburn said he is thankful for the body cam video that ensured transparency in his daughter's death. It's probably the most horrible, heart-wrenching thing that we've ever seen in our lives. But if it were not for the body cam footage, we would not have known that this occurred. He mentioned that he had been told that someone from the street or another individual had gone into the house and discovered her dead body. He only learned that the deputies were responsible for her death when his brother requested Sonya's address. After providing it, his brother informed him that it indicated deputies were involved, which left him confused and questioning what was meant by that.
Asked for Sonya's address, and I gave it to him. And he said, "Brother, this says deputies involved." And I'm like, what are you talking about?
There was even a story suggesting that Sonya might have done this to herself. In the end, it was the body cam footage that brought everything to light.
Heart-wrenching thing that we've ever seen in our lives, but if it were not for the body cam footage, we would not have known that this occurred.
Wilburn said he also heard conspiracies of the shooting being self-inflicted. He believes the cover-up began right after the shooting happened. When asked about why Massey told Grayson, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus," Wilburn said he believed his daughter was in concern of her safety. "I think she feared for her life, some premonition that she had, and it seems he's just an emissary of Satan, and that's what caused him to do what he did. It's just unexplainable," Wilburn said. And you know, speaking of the body cam footage, Sean had turned off his own body cam during the interaction. It was his partner's body cam footage that ended up revealing the truth. So, did Sean turn it off because he had already planned everything out? Was he trying to cover up his tracks? Was it not just a random, senseless act of violence as we've been led to believe? It certainly seems that way, based on the information that has come to light so far. One person wrote, "All the prior employers who knew about his turbulent criminal behaviors should be charged also." Another one added, "Everyone should be investigated. Sean, his partner, the fiancé, her father, the sheriff. Time to call an FBI." And if you think that's a stretch, wait until you hear about the hidden connection between Sonya and Sean's girlfriend. Sean's girlfriend, well, actually his fiancée, is Isabel Butterfield. She was set to marry Grayson in October this year, but with the way things are going, that plan might be on hold. According to sources, Isabel ran into Sonya at the mental health treatment center where Sonya used to go. And guess who else worked there? None other than Isabel Butterfield.
Digging, and I realized y'all said that Sonya had on a hospital bracelet. I looked up the closest place where she could have got medical care to her house, an 8-minute drive away.
And this is where the theories start coming in. You see, Sonya was still wearing her hospital bracelet when she passed away, leading many to believe that she was at the health center getting treatment before the incident. It's thought that something happened between Isabel and Sonya that led Sonya to rush home.
Could it possibly be that the police actually, especially Sean Grayson, who I'm talking about, actually caused the situation in the backyard, and then they took the call, which is why she didn't even have a chance to get clothes on? Because if
a lot of folks seem to think there's definitely something suspicious about the situation. One person commented, "Yes, Isabel Butterfield needs to be investigated. HIPAA needs to be contacted if she released any medical information about Sonya to him." Another one added, "That fiance need to be charged too. She caused Sonya death and released Sonya's medical records to Grayson." Now it's all up in the air, but people feel like the authorities need to investigate the average response time in the area and compare it to the response time on the day of the incident. If it turns out that all of this was planned, does that mean his partner was involved as well? Whatever the case, it's only adding to the suspicion around Sean Grayson. One thing that had folks fuming was his shady employment history. After Sean Grayson's name hit the headlines, people were naturally curious to dig up everything about him. And you won't believe what they found. Apparently, when Sean first applied to be a police officer, they didn't just hire him because they thought he'd be good at the job. No, they hired him because he had a reference from his girlfriend's father. WCIA managed to get their hands on Grayson's personnel files through the Freedom of Information Act, and some details really caught people's attention. In his beneficiary designation and emergency contact information, Grayson listed his girlfriend's name. For references during hiring, he put down her father's name, Scott Butterfield, his future father-in-law, and a former sheriff's deputy. According to a Facebook post by the Sangamon County Sheriff's Office, Scott retired after 30 years of service in 2020. But it seems his influence still carried weight, as Sean landed the job thanks to him. With such a glowing reference, it's hard to believe they wouldn't hire Sean. Mr. Butterfield advised me that Mr. Grayson is currently dating his daughter, Lieutenant Wes Wooden wrote in his background investigation of Grayson for the Sangamon County Sheriff's Office in March 2023. Mr. Butterfield describes Mr. Grayson as a mellow, non-confrontational person who has good communication skills. Mr. Butterfield highly recommends Mr. Grayson for employment with the Sangamon County Sheriff's Office. In a letter to the editor of the Muddy River News, Brenda Butterfield, Scott's mom, said Scott is a to-be father-in-law who is as close to Sean as a father can be. Meanwhile, Sangamon County Sheriff Jack Campbell mentioned that Grayson's personnel file includes references from people he knows well. So the question here is whether everyone chose to overlook warning signs just because Grayson had a reference from someone credible. The warning signs were definitely there. Sean worked at 5 different law enforcement agencies before landing a job at the Sangamon County Sheriff's Office, making it 6 different police departments between 2020 and 2024. And get this, he also had 2 DUI convictions within a year on his record. In fact, one of these convictions was the reason he was discharged from the Army early. So the Army decided he wasn't competent enough to do his job, but the police force did a psychological evaluation of Sean on May 31st, 2023, and concluded he was fit to serve. However, they did include this in their report. He knows he can move too fast at times. He needs to slow down to make good decisions. He was instructed to take high-stress classes, but guess what? Sean never showed up. What's even more ridiculous is that Sheriff Campbell claimed he wasn't aware of any issues at Sean's previous workplaces. However, the records obtained by WCIA tell a different story. Apparently, Sean was investigated not once but twice for his behavior while at the Logan County Sheriff's Office. His supervisor even noted that Sean had disobeyed orders during a high-speed chase.
Into 2nd Street, she's taking a right.
Are you pursuing?
I'm about to terminate. She's flying up 121 right now.
Despite orders to terminate the chase, Grayson kept going. To avoid getting caught, he turned off the sirens and the lights. That decision backfired when he ended up slamming the car into a deer.
Well, I'll definitely be terminated because a buck just smacked the side of my driver's side door.
Did you violate a direct order
Yes.
from a supervisor about termination?
Yes, I did.
Then there's also the report from his boss at the Auburn, Illinois Police Department in 2022. This was written by the Auburn chief while he was giving a representative from Logan County a review of Sean's performance. According to the chief, Grayson struggled with report writing, which might be something you could overlook. However, what can't be overlooked is the part where the chief said Grayson was aggressive and had posted about his illegal substance arrest on social media. Did Sheriff Campbell pay any attention to this? No, sir. In fact, he gave reporters his own twisted reasoning for ignoring it. He alone is responsible for this, Campbell said in an interview with NBC News. He failed to do what he was trained to do, what he had experience to do, what he's equipped to do. He and he alone is responsible for that. Campbell, who has resisted calls to resign since the shooting, defended his office's vetting of Grayson prior to his hiring. We were satisfied that he could work as a police officer in Illinois, Campbell said. There was nothing about his past that would decertify him or disqualify him to be a police officer. He had been hired by 5 other agencies prior to ours, certified by the state of Illinois 6 times, including us, to work as a police officer. Campbell said his office was not aware of documented issues with Grayson's performance at previous agencies. But he refused to say whether he would have hired Grayson had he known, saying it would amount to speculation. Grayson worked for 6 law enforcement agencies in central Illinois in 4 years, in both part-time and full-time roles, before he was hired by Sangamon County, according to the Illinois Law Enforcement Training and Standards Board. He sometimes worked 2 part-time law enforcement jobs at once, the board's records show. Campbell described this as a typical path for an officer who wants to work at a larger department where the prospect of earning a higher income is greater. He said that Grayson had completed enough training at a part-time police academy before he began working in Sangamon County to work legally in the state, but that he required Grayson to complete an additional 16 weeks of training. He had everything he needed. He failed, Campbell said. This is his fault. He also said that a DUI does not disqualify a potential candidate and that Grayson's questionable employment history didn't raise any red flags. Instead, it showed his admirable ambition to advance to larger and more structured departments. Mark Ayers, a Sangamon County board member responsible for hiring new deputies, said he was never made aware of Sean's troubled past or the negative reports from his previous employers. People find this kind of ridiculous. How is the police department doing business like this?
Bring on someone that had that troubled past with that record.
So yeah, there are a lot of questions here. Why did everyone around Grayson trust him so blindly? Why did his father-in-law back him? And since they did, are they to blame for his actions as well? But that's hardly the worst of it. With Sean being villainized by the public, his grandmother-in-law came out of hiding to defend him. She wrote an op-ed titled, "Does anyone care about Sean Grayson's family or what horrifying reality they are dealing with?" If that title made you raise your eyebrows, you're not ready for what she actually wrote. She starts off writing directly to the protesters. What are you protesting? Sean is in jail, charges are filed, a trial date will be set, and punishment will be applied. Sean is not going anywhere, so please stop wearing out your sweat glands. Take your signs and go home and just be humans, not the amusement or disgust of the public. Of course, people who read the op-ed were pissed. They felt like Butterfield was missing the entire point. The protests weren't just about Sean himself, but about why he was on the force in the first place despite his history. It's not just about him, it highlights a deeper systemic issue within the police force that needs to be addressed. And then there's the fact that a life was taken. Being placed in handcuffs doesn't erase that loss. But what do you think about the whole situation? Do you think Sonya was set up? Is putting Sean behind bars enough? Or should everyone around him get looked into too? That's it for today. See you in the next video. Until then, goodbye.